Hi, guys. How are you? I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. Sorry it took me a second longer to hop on here. I was finishing up some last minute things, but so excited to see you. I have been excited about this live. And then about 30 minutes before the live started, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. So when you're here, be sure to say hi. Let me know that you're here, where you're watching from. Share, with your friends or family. Tonight is a live that you don't want to miss out on. So if you are watching it live now, so right now it's 7:05 Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, or you're watching it in the replay, do hashtag replay. But either way, stick around because this is honestly the most vulnerable live that I've ever done. And when I say like I'm nervous, like I'm nervous, but I think it's important. And I'll explain why in a minute, why I think it's so important to just show up tonight and be vulnerable. And then at the end of this live, I have a super fun special offer for you guys, super inexpensive. So, everyone's like, I can't afford anything. Like, it's super inexpensive, but it is a really fun special offer that I want to share with you. And then I have a freebie too. So that's for everyone. So I'll be sharing that stuff at the end and how you can access that. So definitely stick around. So, welcome, everybody. How are you? How are you? If you are completely new to me, my name is Ashley Asmarowsky. I am a spiritual medium psychic. And if you ever want to schedule with me or anything like that, learn about me, you can click the link in my bio or just go to ashleyspiritualmedium.com. So, hi, everybody. Hi, Latarsha. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Terry. Hi, Cheryl. Hello. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Thanks, Danny. Okay, I'm surprised I'm not a sweaty mess. Honestly, I've been like busting my butt trying to finish up some work that I had to do today before this live. Like I haven't gotten up out of this chair in probably 4 or 5 hours. So I have just been like work, 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 like try to get everything done. Oh, Veronica, I'm so sorry. I'm sending you all the love in the world. Hi, Nicholas. Hey, Sarah. Good. So excited that you guys are here. So, like I said, do me a favor, share the video. I think what we're going to talk about tonight, it's really going to put my story out there. It's really, I think that's why I'm nervous. Being vulnerable, it's never easy, and it is scary. But I want to be vulnerable with you guys today because I receive so many messages, and I have so many conversations with people where, we talk about a bunch of different things. We talk about just general healing and trying to overcome, your traumas or your experiences, your hardships. We talk about learning how to listen to your intuition. We talk about how to open up that line of communication with your loved ones in spirit. And so often people look at me and they go, oh, I wish I could do what you do, but I can't. Why? Why can't you? Why can't you? I am nothing special. Trust me, when you hear a little bit about my story, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, she's just like the rest of us. So I wanted to just hop on and I don't know, everything in spirit has pushed me to share this live tonight. So whether you are watching me on Facebook, whether you're watching me on YouTube, wherever you're watching me from, I hope that you'll show me kindness. I hope that you'll show me compassion, and I hope that you'll show yourself that same thing in return. So, as I'm talking, I may turn the comments off just so that I can kind of stay focused, but I will definitely check back in periodically. So, comment, engage, absolutely. One thing that I always appreciate is when you react to the video, the more that you react, the more it lets me know that you're still here, but also it helps to push the content out there and reach other people. So if you could heart, like, and everything, comment throughout the video, share if you feel pulled to, just know that I would greatly appreciate that. So those of you who have been following me for a while, you know two things. One, I'm a pretty open book. I tend to share a lot about my story, but I've never gone this in depth. Two, I have such scatterbrain that I have to create a list here to keep me from kind of wandering off and getting off course too much, because I don't want to keep you guys here for 4 to 5 hours. I'm going to try to keep this right in about an hour. So again, I will have a special offer. Hold on one second. I forgot to add this. Free offer and freebie at the end of this live. So stick around. Just because I know that we have people that kind of hop in and come and go as we're talking. So that way I don't have to continue to repeat myself. It's already down there. If you are new to me, be sure to give me a follow. I always appreciate that. Hi, everybody. How are you? Hello, hello, hello. So I'm going to go ahead and I am just temporarily, I'm going to kind of get the comments out of my way so that I can focus. There we go. But I promise to check back in with those. So if you are new to me, hi, I'm Ashley Asmarowsky. I am a spiritual medium psychic, and I like to think that one thing you can always expect from me is for me to be 100% honest, open, and show up to the best of my ability, whether that's in a mentorship, whether that's in a reading, whether that's just in a conversation we're having. I will always try to show up as my most authentic self because I think that's so important. And on social media, I mean, you guys know this. On social media, we tend to see the versions of people that they want us to see, right? Like we never hear about the bad stuff. We never hear about the hard stuff. It's always, my life is perfect and I'm happy and I'm grateful and blah, blah. And that's great. That's great. But let's be real for a second. Life is not like that all the time. And the version, and I'm just going to speak for myself here, the version of me that you see today is not the version of me that has always existed. Aspects of my personality have always existed, of course, but I've done a lot of work, a ton of work to get to where I am today. So over the course of the next hour, I'm going to try really hard not to like sob and get too emotional, but when I'm in a session with you guys, I always encourage the emotion. It's part of the release, it's part of the healing. So I hope that you'll you'll give me the space to do the same if it does happen. So, little bit about me and why I want to share my story is just it's been coming up a lot. It's been coming up a lot. Like I said, in conversations that I've had with everyone, with clients, in my personal life, conversation I've been having in groups or, whatever. It keeps coming up. So I'm like, okay, spirit, I hear you. I hear you. I guess I need to put my story out there. And I just need to be very real and very vulnerable and very honest for a little bit. And I have always encouraged people, you do not need me. You do not need any other psychic medium to help you connect with your loved ones. Yes, we're here for that. And I am always more than happy to do that for you. But you should never feel like you need to rely on anyone in order to do that. I mean, that's just not the truth. You don't have to. You are fully capable of connecting with your own intuition. You're fully capable of connecting to your own loved ones, to your own guides. You're fully capable of making your own decisions and trusting yourself. Like you are totally capable of these things that you look outside of yourself for. And I know that because I was once that person that was always looking outside of myself for the answers that I was seeking. And so now that I understand the importance of trusting and surrendering, and I've gone through so much freaking healing that it's unreal to get to where I am today. I always want to share that with you because I want you to know that one, you're not alone. Two, we are all a work in progress. None of us are perfect. None of us have it, easier than someone else. Just because someone else may be struggling in a different way than you doesn't mean that your struggles and your feelings are not validated. They're not important. They're not worthy of time and attention because they absolutely are. So I'm going to dive right in to my story. Yes, they are around, whether we know it or not. Yes, our loved ones are always, always around. So I'm going to dive right into my story. And if you are a personal friend or family member of mine, just know that whatever I am relaying, it's never to make anyone else feel less than, it's never to hurt anyone's feelings. It is my version of the story, and my version is valid, just like your version is valid. So let's dive into this. Okay. So the version of me that you guys see today, I tend to really come off as a very positive person. I tend to come off as, a friend to all. And, I'm always here. I'm willing to do anything I can to help you. And that's always been my nature. I mean, it just has always been my nature. However, my life has not always been easy. My life today is very quiet. My life today is very simple. My life today is very healthy. It's very relaxed. I lead a very intentional life. But I didn't just stumble upon that. I actively had to go and create that. And that did not come easily. So we're going to start back at the beginning. So grab a seat, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's dive into it. If you relate to anything that I'm saying, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll be turning the comments back on for myself periodically, but I'm not going to have them on all the time because it's hard to keep focused. So I was born to very young parents. They were very in their very early 20s, and I have beautiful relationships with both of them now. growing up, it wasn't always the easiest because we all know young parents, they're not always ready to be parents, right? Like they love us, but there's a lot of learning along the way. And sometimes we have to grow up together. And that was truly my experience. And there's good and there's bad aspects of that, right? It is what it is. But growing up, I am the oldest. I have three younger sisters. All of them are half sisters. And, you know, I am the oldest. And so I was kind of the first. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. Mm, getting off to a with a bang here, huh? So I'm the oldest. I have three younger sisters. Um, and so I was the first. I was the first daughter. I was the first grandchild to both sides of the family. And naturally, more often than not, the oldest child tends to be sort of the good child, right? It's the one that is more often than not the old soul, the one that has a good head on her shoulders, the one that you never really have to worry about, so on and so forth, right? The one that sort of plays like a second mom to some of her siblings or younger cousins or whatever. And so growing up, I was always a very intuitive child, but I was a very quiet child. I was a very shy child. I really tended to get along a lot easier with the adults around me rather than the kids my own age, except for those that I was really close to. I was highly sensitive. I had a lot of anxiety. And now that I'm an adult, I understand where a lot of that anxiety stemmed from. So when I was growing up, I was exposed to a lot of substance abuse from various adults in my life, and that impacts the way that you grow up. That impacts your experiences, and that impacts the way that the adults in your life can show up for you. And so there was a lot of times that I was sort of left to figure it out on my own, fend for myself from a very, very, very early age, like 5. Like, I remember, like, multiple times, at that young of having to figure out my own meals or, kinda being home alone and things like that. Um, and so there were a lot of times in my life where I just didn't have that support from the adults around me that I needed. And, I've always been loved. That I always knew. I always knew my parents loved me. I always knew my grandparents loved me. I always knew that I was loved, but I didn't always have the support. I didn't always have the guidance that I needed. And I didn't realize that as a child, as most of us don't. Um, I was also from a very young age, and I have to be careful of the way that I word this because we are live and I don't want anything taken down. But I was also exposed to pretty much every type of abuse that there is for years and years and years. And it was never my parents. My parents did not abuse me, but it was somebody that one of my parents brought into my life. And that person did a lot of hurtful things to me over the years. And that impacted me in a really big way. And that truly sort of messed me up for a very long time, a very long time. And as a child, you are often taught not to say anything, that if you do, you'll be the one in the wrong, that things are your fault. And so I believed that. I believed that to my core. And so I never said anything. I never told anyone. I kept it to myself until I was in my teens, late teens. And then when I did open up, I wasn't believed by most people. And still to this day, there are people that don't believe me when I say it. And I've just had to learn to find peace with my own story and support myself and, honor those who do believe me and who have been there to support me since I've opened up about things. But growing up, with the substance abuse, with the abuse that I was going through, with, the adults in my life just not being consistent and not showing up, kind of showing up when they wanted to, not always when they needed to. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, I have the energy for you today. Today I don't. So growing up like that and having to really sort of exist in your own world and try to find the good in that. And because you're a child, you don't know any different. You just think this is what life is. Um, As a child, I think I made the most of it. I was still generally a pretty happy kid, a very anxious kid for sure, but a pretty happy kid. I did good in school when I made it to school. There were a few years where I don't know how I passed because I know I missed more than half of the days of school throughout the year, simply to the adults in my life. But I think I did pretty well. I really do. Looking back as an adult and looking back at the version of myself, the little me that existed, I think I did pretty well. There were a lot of times where I was responsible for taking care of one of my sisters. The other two I didn't really have to care for. They lived with the other parent. Because we all have none of us have the same mom and dad. Like some of us have the same mom, some of us have the same dad, but so one of my sisters I had to care for quite often. Again, even from a really young age. Like I can remember, being about 7 years old. She is about two, and parents are nowhere in sight. So I'm responsible for figuring out food and getting her up and trying to get myself off to school. And memories like that are hard. They leave you as an adult. There's a lot of healing that you have to do because on one hand you feel resentful, on the other hand maybe you forgive your parents because you understand they were, struggling with their own things. And so there's this weird place where you kind of have to figure out, am I going to hold on to this anger, or am I going to forgive and show compassion and just try to move forward from here? Validate my experience, work through those experiences, but continue to move forward. And that's what I chose to do. But before we get into all of that, it's hard. It's hard. And I share this with you because I know just from speaking to so many of you, you've had similar backgrounds, you've had similar experiences, and you hold on to it, or you don't know how to let go of it, or if you want to let go of it. And we can't control what happens to us as children. We absolutely cannot. But as an adult, we can control how we move forward and how we allow it to impact our lives. And so we can choose, do I let this have a hold of me, or do I work through it and release it so that I can break the cycle and I'm not carrying around this weight anymore, and I'm not putting that weight on anyone else? Because again, there's this understanding that I have really found of humans are humans, whether they're your parents, whether they're your siblings, whether they're your friends, whether they're your enemies, whoever they are, we are all humans and we all make mistakes, some bigger than others, but nonetheless, we all make mistakes. So, as a child, that was kind of my life. That was kind of my existence. And then as I got a little bit older, maybe when I neared middle school, I moved in with the other parent. And the other parent was very inconsistent. I love both of my parents so much. If you guys are watching this, you know that we've worked through a lot. I love you tremendously. But I moved in with the other parent, and the other parent could not stay still to save their life. So we moved constantly. And sixth grade alone, I went to 3 different schools, all in different states, and it was really hard to maintain friendships. It was really hard to feel any sort of stability. We moved houses constantly. I mean, I think there was one time just a few years ago where I tried to count how many houses I've lived in from the time I was born up until, that current moment. I think it was like 25, something like that. And we're not a military family. We were just, that parent was just always moving. And that really messes a kid up when there's no stability, absolutely none. That's hard. When there were times where everything was fine and I'd be told the night before, pack up your stuff, we're moving tomorrow. And I never had a say. It was just, here we go. We're going. And, that parent, as often as they moved, they also tended to jump relationships like that too. And so that was always inconsistent. I was always being introduced to new people and, having to kind of play family with these people that I didn't know and that I knew were only going to be around for a very short period of time. And they were. And so it was always the attachment and then the heartbreak and the attachment and the heartbreak. And again, just a lot of inconsistency. And that messes you up as you grow up because you don't know how to form healthy long-term relationships. You have no idea how to do that. You've never been shown how to do that. And you struggle when life does get calm. So for me, when I started to create this life that I have now, where it is consistent, it is steady, we do kind of just live this very simple, quiet life. I went into fight or flight mode because I was always looking for that stress. I was always like, my brain was addicted to it. It was like, no, 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 things can't get quiet. That's unhealthy. We can't do this. And so I was always creating more chaos because that's all that I knew. So, I did gain a little bit more stability. By the time I was about 14 years old, I moved back in with my other parent, who was doing better at this time than they were, when I was in elementary school, but there was still substance abuse. There was still neglect. There was still broken promises. There was still a lot of heartache. Um, and so it was just a true struggle. And, you navigate that to the best of your ability as a child. Again, you have no control over what's going on when you're a kid, right? So you're just trying to make the most of it. And after I graduated, the teen years, all of that hardship that I endured as a child, it reached its head and I became very toxic. I became the person, maybe not the person, but I became a person in many of my relationships who was the toxic one. I became the one who was starting fights. I became the one who was breaking promises. I became the one who was hurting other people because hurt people, right? And I did not yet have the tools to understand how to navigate what I had experienced my entire life. I didn't have the words to express what I experienced. I didn't even have the life experience to realize that what I went through was so different from what everyone else went through. I didn't start realizing that until I was an adult. So in my teens, I am still a loving person. Like that's always been me. I've always been loving. I've always been willing to, give you the shirt off my back. But I, for some people, definitely became the toxic person. And I can recognize that now. And I can look back and I can say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I also surrounded myself with other toxic people because it's what I knew. I surrounded myself with people who were constantly drinking, constantly partying, constantly doing different substances, constantly making poor choices. I put myself in danger a lot because it's all that I knew. I didn't know any different. I always knew it wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't know that a life outside of this type of experience existed because I had never been exposed to it. Ever. I had never been exposed to it. And so when I reached my very early 20s, I got pregnant. I got pregnant with my daughter when I was 21. And that was the moment where I said, something has to change. She can't live like this. I can't do this to her. Um, and I still didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I started to shrink down my circle but it took years. Even after she was here, the first couple years, there were a lot of ups, and thankfully I was with my husband at the time, and he's been really great at just grounding me and helping me heal and helping me find my center and vice versa. Um, but those first few years was hard. It was hard to figure out, how do I become an adult when I never had any adults to show me what a healthy life is supposed to look like. I'm literally trying to pull it out of thin air. I have nobody to mimic. I have nobody to show me how to do this. But I was determined that she was not going to have the upbringing that I had. And so we just sort of figured it out as we went, like most young parents do. And it was trial and error for sure. There were times where my husband became the very toxic one. There were times where I became the toxic one. There were times where we were both healthy, and there were times where we were both toxic. And it was just a learning process. When I hit my early 20s, my spiritual abilities really started to come forward. I'd always been intuitive. I'd always felt things. Even as a child, I'd always felt things. I'd always had experiences. But When I hit my 20s, it started to take a different form, and I started to become a little more interested in it. I wasn't quite as fearful as I was as a child. Now, I did luck out because I did have a grandmother on my mom's side who was very intuitive, and she was always there to guide me in that part of my life to say, this is nothing to be scary. You have this, like, you're safe. And so, I can remember having a conversation with her when I was like 8 about reincarnation, like it's just one of those things where she always made it normal. So in my early 20s, I started to really focus a little bit more on development. I started looking into mentorships. And then at 20, I believe I was 24 when she passed. So before I jump into that next chapter, I'm going to look over some of these comments. You smashed that cycle, girl. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard. Look, there's a lot of people saying, yep, similar childhood. Yep, I've been through it. Absolutely. So, see, like, this is a big reason why I wanted to share it because we're not alone. We're not alone. Okay. And I think it's important to give ourselves grace. So, anyway, around 24, I think I was 24, maybe 25. I don't quite remember, but my grandmother passed away. And she was truly my safe person. And, she had a lot of hardship in her life too. As much as I loved her and as much as a safe person as she was for me, she was not someone who could show me, stability or healthy relationships or anything like that because she didn't have that either. But when it came to just knowing you're loved and experiencing compassion, and then with the spiritual side of things, having a safe place, she was absolutely that person. And, so I remember her joking around, for years. After I pass, I'm going to come back and haunt you and make you face your gifts. I'm like, yeah, okay, mama, whatever, 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 and I would just dismiss her. Well, I kid you not. It was 6 months after she passed away, and things started happening in a way that I'd never experienced them before. And I had reached a point where I was literally, I can remember very vividly. It was in August, and August is always an expansive month for me, but it was in August. We had just moved into a new apartment, it was like 800 square foot apartment. And I remember sitting on my living room floor and I was home alone and I was curled up in a fetal position, covering my ears, rocking back and forth, literally contemplating whether I needed to call and commit myself to an institute because I was hearing things, I was seeing things, and everything was getting so loud. It sounded like it sounded like I was in a room full of people, but I was home alone. There was so much, and I was freaking out. So finally, I remember I just sat up and I said, "Okay." And I'm like yelling, and I'm like, "Okay, I get it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but just show me what to do and I'll do it." And it stopped. And I think it was a day, maybe 2 days later, I was unpacking, and on the floor of my closet was a business card for a medium. I had no idea where it came from. I'm like, "Who is this lady? Like, where did this card even come from?" But I pick it up and I go, "Okay." So I call this medium and I'm telling her about what's going on. And she's like, "Okay, well, where do you live?" And I told her, and she goes, "You live like 2 miles from me." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So there's no such thing as coincidence. So I end up going to her house and we get to talking. And next thing I know, we're like doing almost a year-long mentorship together where she's just teaching me sort of the ins and outs of spirit and how it works and your abilities. And I realized the more that I learned, the less afraid I was becoming. But not only the less afraid I was becoming, more importantly, the more self aware I was becoming. So I was starting to understand what I needed to do to heal those traumas I had experienced. I was starting to get divine downloads. I was starting to get inspired ideas. I was starting to recognize opportunities. I was starting to understand how to listen to my intuition in order to heal all of those traumas, the abuse, the hardship, the neglect, everything that I had experienced growing up. I was starting to understand. So, what I did is I continued with the mentorship. I started taking therapy. I did so much therapy, it's not even funny. I did individual therapy, we did marriage therapy, like we did it, I did it all, okay? And therapy is such a helpful tool, but what I started to notice is therapy could only get me so far, and then I'd hit a wall and I couldn't get past it. And I was like, I don't know what to do next. And I would fall back into those old patterns and fall back into those old patterns. And finally, I started diving more into my development. I never wanted to become a medium for anyone else. I was literally doing this just so I could open up the line of communication with my grandmother because I was like, I miss her. I want to talk to her. I want to hear from her. I want to know how to know when she's around and I need her guidance. And so I just started taking these mentorships. And when I was done with the year-long mentorship, I started taking workshops and other mentorships. And I'd go to metaphysical stores and take classes. And, I just started showing up. And I realized the more that I learned, not only was I starting to connect with my grandmother in spirit, but I was healing my inner child. I was healing my inner teen. I was healing my adult self. I was healing. I was looking at things differently. I was making different decisions. I was feeling differently. I was experiencing the world differently. And I didn't have anyone to share this with. I mean, my husband, but I didn't have anyone to share this with because no one else in my family was at a point where they would even understand what I was going through or what I was trying to say. Nobody was in a space of receptiveness where if I came to them at that point and said, "Hey, this is what you did that hurt me and this is what I'm doing to heal it. Can I help you or can we do this together?" that they would have been receptive to it because they weren't. And I could see that they were still struggling with alcohol or substances or inconsistency and constantly moving around and relationship issues, and like they were all the adults in my life were still massively struggling. And so I was on my own, and all I kept telling myself was I have to be better for my daughter. I have to be better for my daughter. And little by little, I did it. Like it wasn't easy and it wasn't perfect. And there were so many tears that were shed, and there were so many disappointments when I would try to go to one of the adults in my life who hurt me, and I would try to have a conversation and I would be dismissed. Or I would get the response of, well, it is what it is. This is just who I am. Those responses hurt. And they made me want to shut down and remove these people from my life. And some of them I did, and others who were more important to me, I learned how to hold the space of compassion for them. I learned how to pray and hope that they find guidance and they found healing when their time was right. And I learned how to set boundaries so that I could have relationships with them, but I would only let them in so far because I didn't want them to interfere with my growth. I didn't want them to interfere with the confidence that I was building in myself and the decisions that I was making because they weren't always understood or respected. But it felt right to me. So I kept showing up. And there was a point where I realized enough is enough. I'm doing all this work, but there's still this point that I can't cross. I had to remove myself from my own family. So I moved halfway across the country. I was born and raised in Maryland, and that's where I spent the majority of my life, other than, when one of my parents was moving me to the other states for a few months at a clip. But I was sitting at work one day, and my husband and I were really struggling at this time because I was in the midst of my healing. And when you're in the midst of your healing, relationships around you they're gonna be affected. And the great thing about my husband is he would never give up. He like, even when I tried to push him away, he would just stand there like, nope, you're stuck with me. Like, I'm not going anywhere. And that used to infuriate me. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that he didn't, because he's been the only steady thing in my life ever. So when I was at work and we were in marriage counseling at this time, and I was sitting there and I was just thinking, I was like, what do I do? What do I have to do? I can't keep going in this circle. Something has to change. Something in my brain just said, you need to move to Texas. And my husband had tried to get me to move to Texas before because he had some family members there, but I'd never been there. I'd never been to Texas. And something in my brain said, you need to move to Texas. And I just knew it. I said, okay. So I called my husband and I text him and I said, hey, do you still want to move to Texas? And he goes, what are you like? We hadn't even talked about it anytime recently. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I was like, I want to move to Texas. And he's like, okay, can we talk about this when we both get home? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So we get home, we talk about it. And literally within a few days, we had called his aunt and we were like, okay, we want to move down. She's like, you can live with me till you get on your feet. Like, it's fine. And so we had 4 months from the time I got that random download that we were gonna move to Texas until we were in the U-Haul moving across country. There were 4 months. And I had never been there. I honestly, I thought I was moving to the desert. Like, I didn't know what Texas was like. Like, I thought I was moving to the desert. We moved to the eastern, northern side of Texas, so it was a lot of, there was a lot of green. It wasn't the desert, but like, in my head, I was like, "Oh, that's it. I'm moving to the desert," and I just accepted it because I knew that the only way to truly heal myself, I had to remove myself from my current situation, from everything and everyone that I ever knew. And I did it blindly and I did it scared shitless. And we lived in Texas for 9 years. And in those 9 years, I did the most healing I'd ever done. I found myself. I figured out who I was. I created the family dynamic. I created the household that I wanted for my kids. And I didn't have to worry about anyone else interfering. I didn't have to worry about anyone else's opinions because when you live 1,500 miles away from your family, they only know what you want them to know. If you're watching this, I love you, family. I only told you what I wanted you to know because I was breaking the cycles. I had made the decision. I'm doing it different. It ends with me. She will not have this experience. And then a few years ago, when we adopted my son, it was the same thing. He will not have this experience. My children deserve stability. They deserve parents they can rely on. Doesn't matter what time of day, what age they are, what we're doing in our personal lives. I will be there. I'll stop what I'm doing and I will be there. I will teach them good morals. I will teach them how to be a good person. I will teach them how to adult. And I decided I was going to make these changes. Sorry. I decided I was going to make these changes. I didn't have anyone to show me how. I didn't have anyone to hold my hand. But I knew that if I didn't do it, my children were going to be in the same place that I was in a few years. They were going to be sitting there going, how do I do this? What does a healthy life look like? I didn't want that for them. So I continued with my mentorships. I continued with my development in Texas. I found a great little place down there and I found a lot of teachers and I found a great community that really helped with that. And I stuck with therapy on and off. I wasn't consistent with it, but I did it when I felt pulled to. And I really started learning how to surrender. That was the game changer for me. I learned how to surrender. I learned how to set my intentions and just take a deep breath and give the rest to spirit or universe or whoever you're giving it to. And I learned how to communicate with spirit. I learned how to communicate with the other people in my life in an efficient and effective way. I learned that you can be angry with someone and forgive them at the same time. I learned that your toxic experience is valid, but you can also be a healed version of yourself and they can coexist in the same place. I started to understand that it isn't one or the other. I started to understand that I can honor all parts of me that have ever existed and ever will exist. We can all coexist together because that's what makes me me. The child who was abused and neglected, the teen who became very toxic in her adult life, and the adult who's now trying to heal, and the future me who's going to lead this beautiful, wonderful, magical life. That is, all of those parts make up who I am. So I can honor all parts of me at the same time. And the same goes for the people that I love. I can honor all parts of them for their struggles, for their mistakes, for their failures, for their successes, for their growth. I can honor all of that at the same time, and it is all valid. I don't have to choose one or the other. When I really started to lean into my development, really started to lean into it, I started to recognize how bad things really were. And I started to become so self-aware that I realized the way that I would naturally just subconsciously react to things that triggered me were a result of what I experienced as a young child or as a teen. It was all that I knew. So I started to have this self-awareness and I started to learn the tools on how to catch myself. Okay, when this happens or you feel triggered, you can take a beat. You can take a breath. You don't have to react. You don't have to react at all. You don't have to react immediately. You can take a minute. to react in an intentional way. And I started to practice that and I started to learn that. And that's really when, I mean, things just started changing. There's so much more to it. And it's too much to put into this in an hour. But the one thing that I did that made the biggest difference is I was consistently showing up, not always getting it right, a lot of times not getting it right, but I was consistently showing up. I was consistently showing up in my marriage, in my friendships, in the family relationships that I wanted to maintain. In it, I was consistently showing up with my children. I was consistently showing up for myself, and I was consistently showing up for my development. Again, not always perfect, not always getting it right, but I showed up nonetheless because I knew if it's going to change, I'm the only one that can change it. And so as I really dove into my development, the coolest things started to happen other than becoming so self-aware of myself and, the healing and everything that took place with that. But the lines of communication with my loved ones in spirit, I don't even have the words. The ways that I started communicating in the ways that I started to understand how communication actually worked and being able to feel their guidance and feel their love and feel their support literally changed the game for me because it changed the way that I looked at life. I knew, it just solidified for me that everything in this lifetime is temporary. That everything that I experience in this lifetime, good, bad, or indifferent, is temporary. It's all a learning experience. None of us are supposed to be perfect. The soul is perfect. Why would the human self need to be perfect? The soul chose to come here to be perfectly imperfect, to learn the lessons it can't learn as a perfect soul. So I started to understand that we choose our paths before coming into this lifetime. And so I understood I chose my parents. I chose them for a reason because I knew what I was going to experience. Does that make what I experienced okay? No, it sucked. But it gave me the greater understanding of, well, my soul must know how strong I am to choose that, to think, hey, you're capable of this. And now, rather than just letting my soul go through these experiences, let's make the most of it. What can I learn from this? What can I do with this? Why did my soul want to experience what it experienced, as hard as that was? There's a reason for it. So it changed my whole perception of my past, of my present, of my future. It changed my whole perception of how I connect with myself and with those in spirit and with those in my immediate circle. It changed the way that I wanted to portray myself. It changed the way that I wanted to show up for myself and for others. And it allowed me to really hone in on the true essence of who I am and to feel confident in that and to be able to show up in a very true, authentic way rather than masking and showing up in a way that I thought I was just going to be accepted by others or to fit into my environment. Now, regardless of my environment, regardless of who I'm around, regardless of how I feel, I show up consistently the same way every single time. I am who I am, and you take it or you leave it. And now I get to communicate with my grandmother every single day. And it's different than it was than she was when she was here physically, obviously. And I miss the physical aspect, but I communicate with her every single day. I lost my best friend when I was 15. She was killed, and I communicate with her all the time. And there's so many other loved ones that I have in spirit that I do the same thing with. And it changes things. It changes things. It makes things easier. It makes you feel like you're not alone because you're not. And now you're recognizing it. So even when I don't have anyone in the physical world to understand what I'm going through, they do. And I just talk to them. And I pay attention to the subtle signs that they send. And I pay attention to the subtle inclinings and the knowings that I feel because I know it's more than just a coincidence. So I want to share this with you, and I'm going to check the comments here in a minute, but I want to share this with you because I want you to see, I wasn't born knowing how to do this. I wasn't born healed. I guess I was born healed, but I wasn't always able to be a safe place for people. And now I feel that I am. And I've worked really, really hard to get here. And so if you are someone who you're just struggling, maybe you're struggling with healing, maybe you're struggling to understand your intuition, maybe you're struggling to trust yourself, maybe you're struggling to break those cycles, maybe you're struggling because making those changes to break the cycles is scary. And sometimes it's isolating. I mean, I literally moved 15,000 miles away. Sometimes it's isolating. Or maybe you're just struggling with grief and you're like, I need to connect to my loved ones. I need to know that they're here. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a medium. I mean, thank you, and I'm happy to do it, but you should not be relying on us for that communication and that support and that guidance. You have it in you. 1,000%. Every single one of us does, because we are a soul having a human existence. The soul is all knowing. It knows everything that ever was, is, and will be. The soul knows how to communicate. It is a natural born gift that you have, that all of us have. And so all you have to do is learn how to trust it and unlock it, and literally surrender to the magic that is going to unfold when you start to do that. You will begin to see where you can trust yourself. You will begin to understand the power in surrender and moving forward, even when you're fearful. Fear will never go away. Change is always going to be scary, but you get to decide, does that fear keep me where I am and keep me unhappy and keep me miserable? Or am I going to overcome it and I'm going to make the changes that I need to make to create something better for myself? That choice is yours. So you are not in control of what happens to you as a child. You're not always in control of what happens to you as an adult, but you are in control of what you do with it. And so, I want to share this because I want to encourage you to find that strength that exists within you. Whether you're 19, whether you're 30, whether you're in your 50s, whether you're in your 70s, I don't care. It's never too late to make the changes that you want to make for yourself, to better your life, to deepen your connection with yourself, to deepen your connection with spirit, and to heal the parts of you that maybe you've suppressed or you've ignored or have just been feeling so heavy for so long, that it's time to finally let it go. So before I open up the comments, I have two things that I want to share with you. And then I'll read through the comments and we can chit chat a bit. But I have a special offer that I am excited to share with you. It is a 1 hour long workshop. It's on demand, so like you can do it in your own time. But it's an hour long workshop where I teach you the basics on how to open up to communicate with spirit. And then I walk you through a simple guided meditation to really welcome your loved one in and to spend a few minutes with them and to have a conversation and sit with them and hug them. And I think it's important because it's going to teach you, it's going to show you, oh, you can do this. Oh, it is a lot simpler than it sounds, that you're capable of this. And it'll be yours. You can watch it. You can do it as much as you want. You can go back to it 20,000 times if that's what you want to do, but it's yours to have. And I'm offering it for only $29. 29 bucks. That's it. $29. And so if you're interested in that, you can send me a text message or send me an email. Let me see here. I'm going to put my information. Where's that banner? Here it is. Hold on one second. Gotta update it. Is it gonna update? Sorry, one second. There it goes. Okay, so you can email me. I have my email down here. I have my phone number down here. You can email me or you can text me and let me know that you want the special offer and I'll send it to you. I'll send you the link on where you can purchase it. So I'm really excited about that. It's just a really simple way to help you see that you can connect, understand the basics of how connection works, and to have a few minutes. It's about a 25 minute meditation to help you bring in your loved one and really just spend some time with them. Then I also have a freebie. This is a collective new moon reading and a mini exercise to help you really focus on your manifestations. External or internal. Maybe you want to manifest healing. Maybe you want to manifest healthier relationships. Maybe you want to manifest a new job or relationship or whatever. But if you want to take hold of the special offer, you can just email me or text me and let me know you're interested in the special offer. I'll send you the link to buy it. Or if you want the freebie, just text me or email me New Moon and I'll send you the link for that. So I I share this with you because I want to help you, because I want you to know that you're not alone, because I want you to understand everybody has to go through it in order to heal it. When you see people who are happy and they're living in gratitude and, their life is manifesting in every way that they've ever desired, it did not come easily, at least not at first. They've had to go through the hard stuff. They've had to most people who live a life like that and are truly authentic in that, they hit rock bottom before they started their journey. They had so much hardship that maybe they don't share, and I think that's why I feel so pulled to share it, because I want you to know you're not alone. We all go through it in one way or another. And whatever you experienced, whether that's less than or more than somebody else, it doesn't make your experience any less valid. Okay. So let me look at these comments because I had to turn them off. Otherwise, I would so lose my train of thought. Yes. Yeah. You have to feel it to heal it. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I'm just seeing all of these people, like all of you just saying I understand it. I've gone through this. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, I do allow myself to I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable because I'm tired. I'm tired of hopping on social media and seeing people saying, spiritual awakenings, they're beautiful, they're this, they're that, they're that. No, they're not. They're hard and they hurt. But they do lead to something really magical. They do lead to something really beautiful. So, if you want to learn how to communicate with your own loved ones, because it helps not only in your communication with them, but it helps you to feel supported. It helps you to gain guidance in all other aspects of your life. Check out the workshop. Text me or email me saying you're interested in the special offer. I'll send you the link. If you can't afford the $29 right now, or you're just not interested and you want to check out the new moon freebie that I'm doing, just text me or email me new moon and I'll send it to you. Again, all my information is down there. And when this video is over, I'll put the links in the comments as well. But I share this with you because I don't want you to feel alone, because I want you to know that I worked really hard to get to where I am today. And if I can do it, you can do it. Now I live a life that is so much more magical than I would. And I don't say this to be cheesy. I don't say this to make things better off than they are. No, I mean it. I live a life that is so much more magical than I ever envisioned. I live a life that I didn't know existed. I didn't, because I was never exposed to it. I didn't know that you could have a stable marriage and legitimately be healthy and happy. I didn't know that you could be best friends with your kids. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could thrive when you have stability and open, honest communication. I didn't know that you could heal yourself. I didn't know that the world is actually a really magical and beautiful place. I didn't know that because I was never shown that. And my development and leaning into my development literally changed it all. And so now I want to share it with you. We choose the life that we are born into for a reason. Don't let your soul go through those hardships and not make the most out of them. There's a reason you went through the hardship. Figure out why. Figure out what you're supposed to do with it. Figure out where you're supposed to go from there. And know that you're deserving of that time. You're deserving of that energy. You're deserving of the healing and all the things that you want to manifest for yourself. You go through things for a reason. And I will say this, when I do my mentorships, it comes through in readings too. But when I do my mentorships, I realize that a large portion of the people who mentor with me have gone through very similar childhoods or experiences that I have. So I now understand part of the reason why I went through those experiences was so that I knew how to show up for these people today. If I would have never gone through them, I wouldn't know how to show up. I wouldn't know how to relate. But I did, and I do. So there's always something good to be found in every situation. no matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes you to find the good in it. Eventually, if you stay consistent and you continue to show up, you will find the good in it. Yeah. Jessica said, I've been climbing out of the rabbit hole one day at a time, one step at a time. You can absolutely do it 100%. So I'm going to leave you with that. I thank you guys for being here. Like I said, if you want the special offer, if you want to join or if you want to participate with the $29 workshop, just text me or email me that you're interested in the special offer. My information's down here. I'll send you the link. If you want the free new moon special, just text me or email me new moon. I'll send you the link. But also, if you are interested in deepening your development, really diving into it, it's finally time to launch my virtual small group mentorship. So I only do this once or twice a year. It's a 5-week program. And I'm so excited. We start September 27th and it runs through until October 25th. I have more details on that on my website. If it's something that you guys are interested in, you can head over to ashleyspiritualmedium.com and check it out. Or again, email me or text me and I'll send you more information. But if you want to participate in the workshop for $29, at the end of the workshop, I give you a special coupon code that takes $111 off of the 5-week mentorship. So I'll just throw that out there. So I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you're interested in anything, the special offer, the new moon freebie, the 5-week mentorship, or anything else that I offer, or any questions that you have, please, I am available via email, via messenger, via text. Like, reach out and I will absolutely contact you or get back to you as soon as I can. It's not always immediate, but sometimes it is, but I will get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. So I love you all. Seriously, like, thank you for your love and thank you for your compassion and just listening to this. It is possible to go through hard times and still hold on to compassion for those that you care about and for yourself. Okay. You can go through hard things and not be mad at someone. You can forgive someone, but yet your experience is still validated. You can grow and reminisce on who you once were and how far you came, and you can honor the hardships and the successes and the failures all at the same time. Everything that you've experienced and everyone that's been a part of you and everything that you do makes you who you are. Don't feel that you need to hide or suppress any aspect of who you are or part of your story, because it's what made you who you are today, and it is worthy of your attention. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't cry. I teared up a little bit. Okay. I teared up once. I thought for sure I'd be a sobbing mess, but I'm proud of myself. I did pretty good. So I love you all. I hope to hear from you all so soon. Again, text me or email me. You can even message me on Facebook if you are interested in anything that I've talked about, or you have questions about anything. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, and I will see you next time. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.